Welcome along to the Wise Men Say podcast. We are here to bring you your preview show. Fulham are coming to the Stadium of Light on Sunday, and we're going to talk about it. Eleanor's with me. How are we doing?
Hello, Stephen. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Result aside last week, which we'll get on to, no doubt.
Yeah, we've moved on.
Well,
Everything's going to be okay.
Kind of,
it's
but,
fine.
You know, I've had a chance to express my opinions on it.
You know,
so.
he's not here, but as Richard would, in memory of Richard.
He's just on holiday. He's fine.
Yeah, he'll be back next
yeah.
week. Everything's going to be okay. But as he would, we are. What does he do? He rapidly processes. What's his phrase that he uses? But yeah, he gets over things very quickly. So that's what we're going to do. Everything's going to be fine.
It's a good way to live. Phil, do you think you process information quickly and move on with things?
No. No.
I know you've got to write about it for the next few days.
I'm a chronic overthinker,
Yeah.
which probably suits me well in my line of work.
Yeah. Well,
But I am the opposite of that, yeah.
okay. Well, that's Phil Smith from the Sunderland Echo, of course. Glad to have you with us today. We're not going to go we don't need to talk about the Ipswich match much really. Just a couple of things, maybe just to draw a line under it. Go back and listen to Eleanor and Gareth anyway. They did a show on Monday where they speak about it. But I think on the whole, Phil, people have taken this quite well. And I actually listened to, I know this is sad, listened to an Ipswich podcast afterwards just to get their perspective on things, because I was just interested to see if they were like, well, Sunderland are terrible or whatever. And I think they were quite realistic about it as well and said it was pretty much a 50-50 game where moments go one way or the other. It was funny because they were kind of saying, I hope every game's not like this. And I was thinking, most games will be like this because we spoke about this a lot last season.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I had this feeling, obviously, being down there and stuff, like, I went for like a walk on the morning of the game and something. Do you know when it just feels like it's someone else's day? I feel like we've had a lot of our days over the last couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
And it felt a little bit like Ipswich was buzzing. And it felt a little bit like our day against West Ham.
Yeah.
New signings, real feeling of actually, you know what, we can have a go at this. And but that was part of also the frustration for me, was because I had this sense that it was going to be a tricky game. But actually, we got ourselves in such a good position. That was what really frustrated me. We started the game really well, gave away a daft goal, but then got back into it. The only thing that sort of even now I'm a little bit surprised by is that we just didn't offer much in the second half, and I didn't see that coming. Because I thought at half time, I thought we were in a great position to go on and potentially win the game, and I thought we were really average in the second half, and that's the only bit that I'm still a little bit surprised and disappointed by. But I also did kind of think, as you said, 50-50 game, daft errors that you don't expect us to make regularly. No need for kind of panic, but.
How do you feel about Jamie Carragher saying that the second mistake in particular was down to a little bit of arrogance? Would you go along with that?
No, I wouldn't.
No complacency for you at all?
No, I think Omar Alderete's biggest strength can also be his biggest weakness. He is chill to an extreme degree that most footballers aren't on the pitch. And sometimes over the last year, we've seen the good side of that, where he's able to make passes that most players wouldn't dare attempt because of the risk. I also think, it's a very lazy thing to say. The guy hasn't kicked a ball for 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's literally not played since the World Cup. He hasn't had any minutes in pre-season. He's gone straight on into a Premier League game, and he's made an error. Personally, I think it's one of those things. I'm not having arrogance, and I also think the goal comes about because Ipswich have got quite high up the pitch to press.
Yeah.
If Alderete pops it through and Siddiqui turns and we're through on goal, people are having the same conversation about Ipswich. Take the point.
Yeah.
First day of the season, take the point. What are you pressing that high for? You know, and so I think it's just one of those where I'm not having arrogance personally.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with it is, like you say about Alderete, you can talk about other players with that, and we've potentially had that conversation a bit about Nordy at times, where is there kind of, but Alderete, there isn't an inch of arrogance there. There is no part of it, and I think it's just. Yeah, I agree.
It's too
I think it's just a lazy thing to say,
I think that's a fair criticism to say. Sometimes it can be too casual.
But it doesn't come from a place of lack of respect for your opponent.
And also, you don't want to be in a place where your players are scared to ask for the ball and receive the ball and play football, because we've been there as well, watching Sunderland over the years where people are too worried and playing it safe too much. So it's just unfortunate 2 errors were punished in such a way they were, because that would usually only happen if you were playing a Man City or an Arsenal or something.
And this is the thing as well. The first goal especially is a poor pass, right? And it's a self-inflicted error. let's be fair. I mean, for NC sort of turn that into the goal for Emerson. Let's not forget, he's 10 yards inside his own half. Like, it's not just like he's giving it away on the edge of his own box and he's got a tap in. I mean, that is serious individual quality, and I guess like that's also part of the discussion, though, isn't it? That even a newly promoted team has got incredible quality.
They've definitely recruited better this year than
There's been a big shift, hasn't there?
Yeah.
And
we probably to blame for that.
Yeah,
Us and
100%.
Forest before. Yeah,
100%. And you could see that in the kind of players that they were signing. You know, the athletic, tenacious, mobile. You can see that they've learned the mistakes from what they did last time, and that's a challenge Sunderland have now got, that they have shown teams that you can do it if you do it the right way. And probably one of the most frustrating things coming away from the game was actually those lads all had to come off after an hour, 75 minutes, and it felt like we were fairly comfortable in the game, and then gave it away.
I did watch the game live. I had my daughter down in London again, so it was very much like interval of the show we were watching. What's the score? End of the show. What's the final score? And I was really annoyed when that come up, obviously, and I saw who scored the winner. But just thinking about the game logically without even watching it, I was convinced. I didn't think we'd lose, and I thought when I turn my phone back on here to look at the score, we're gonna either draw or win. And the reason I thought that when I looked at the teams was the strength of the bench.
Yeah.
And I thought late on, when the game settles down a bit or whatever, we'll start to bring some of those players on and win. So I was a bit disappointed. You were going to point out that I predicted.
You predicted we'd lose in the preview part.
I heard you say this on Monday. I didn't actually.
You did.
I predicted I said we would draw. I remember
you saying, I think we'll lose.
Go back and listen. I said we'll draw 1-1 or 2-2. What I said is I've got a horrible feeling we aren't going to win, is what I said.
Okay.
And it is at the back of my mind they're going to come up and do what we did at West Ham. I said that. But the actual
I'm gonna go back and listen.
If you're that committed, then you can go back and
I'm sure you had the same experience as well in Portman Road when the ball falls to Jack Clark of don't let him cut inside. Don't let him cut inside. Don't let him cut inside.
Absolutely.
It's Jack Clark.
Yeah.
Come on, shown down the outside. Oh my word.
Dude, there was like a Dar stood in front of me who just went, well, we know he can do that.
Yeah.
It was like,
it is.
Yeah, like you can.
If there's one thing you would say about Jack Clark, he's pretty effective when he cuts it on his right foot. So that was just like good finish, mind.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah,
definitely was.
But frustrating, but it happens.
It's brought up the whole debate and conversation again about how a lot of people are suddenly putting Sunderland in this group of teams that are going to be threatened by relegation or whatever. Some of the pundits who I really respect actually have come out this week and rubbished that. A lot of people again mentioning Jamie Carragher pouncing on that one, but I listened to an episode of The Overlap where they had to come up with like a hot take for the season, and Ian Wright said, I think Sunderland do well again and it could be like a top 7. I think they're that good. And Jamie Carragher kind of challenged him on that and said, I think they'll struggle for the reasons he said, but he was stopping short of saying we'd go down. And then, because he was asked to do a hot take, kind of went, actually, all right, then, do you know what? My hot take will be that they'll go down. And everybody kind of disagreed with him then. Everybody was like, I don't agree with that. So then when him and Gary Neville did it on the Monday night thing, I guess he's just doubling down and backing himself and sticking with the prediction. Some truth to some of the things he was saying, like we've just said there. A lot of the games that were 50-50 last season were going for us, and we would talk about that on the podcast last season and acknowledge that and say, even the likes of Wolves came up and had their moments, but I just think we have too much quality to not come out on the right side of a lot of those again.
I think the bit where I listened to that, I was just the Sheffield United thing for me. I mean, there could not be, in my opinion, a stark difference between Sheffield United, the squad they had for their second season, the quality that we've got. So that was probably the aspect of it where I just thought, I'm not seeing that personally. But I don't know. I think it's natural, right? Because all of last season there was kind of this thing that Sunderland were going to fall away, and not for no reason. But I think towards the end of the season, I think it went under the radar how well we were playing and how much we'd adapted as a team. And so that's why I'm not really overreacting to one game, because I think a lot of the assumptions are based on the team that we were at the start of last season rather than where we finished it. So I was definitely a little bit, as I said right at the start, and as you mentioned there with the bench, I was surprised by how flat we were at the end of the game. That was the one thing that I came away from a little bit concerned by.
And when you've seen what we can do as well, like I think there were points last season where we very much were a team of two halves, but it was always in the positive sense that maybe if we finished the first half flat, we would come out
We'd sort it out,
kicking in the
wouldn't we, at
second half,
half-time?
and
Definitely.
that just didn't
Yeah.
seem to happen this week. And I know I said it on Monday, but I do think they looked leggy, and I do think they looked tired, and I think, and that is probably the only part of it that maybe rang some alarm bells for me. Is this something that as your fitness comes back and as you start to like continue to play, is that gonna improve, or has the World Cup just knackered you for the season, and you're gonna end up being forced into a break?
Okay, well let's hope that's not the case. On Fulham specifically, so we did a big opposition preview, and go and listen to those if you want, part 1 and part 2, where we spoke to clubs, spoke to fans from every club in the Premier League. So I didn't want to necessarily get an Ipswich or Fulham guest on so early in the season, because we've kind of heard of what they say. I think a lot of acknowledgement from the Fulham end that there's a big unknown going into this season. They've lost their 2 top scorers from last season, which is big. You also, Lukic, who played for Ipswich the weekend, who set the second goal. But I think he's a good player, and they've let him go as well. Yeah. And we spoke about Monday night there. Now, interestingly, first thing, Chelsea have lots of good players. And last season was a false position, I think we all know. But a lot was made in the analysis, wasn't it, Phil, about the centre half splitting, getting on the front foot. And then their managers come out afterwards and said, I don't care how we play, this is what I've been brought in to do, and this is what we're going to do. Now, that is what I want to hear at the moment as a Sunderland fan, because losing the first game, going into a home game now feels like it's one we need to win, really. The last thing I would want is a Premier League team to come up here, shut up shop, be really hard to beat, be really nasty and horrible in the middle of the park, and try and hit us on the counter. That will be worst case scenario for me. So I'm hoping they're not going to do that, and they are going to continue to play in this manner, which doesn't guarantee anything, of course.
Yeah.
But that's what we want.
I thought it was really interesting as well. I don't know if you saw his press conference after the game, but he said, I've watched all the games in the Premier League this weekend, and nobody is ready for this season. And I thought that was a great quote. It just put Saturday into perspective a little bit as well. And you saw that across the board, right? Like Villa 4-0 down after half an hour.
Yeah.
I watched the Man United Hull game. That was like wild. Hull looked unbelievable. It was just, it is a weird season this season. And because of how many players we had at the World Cup, we are going to feel it a little bit as well. I don't know what you felt being at the ground down there. I thought that was the worst I've seen Xhaka for quite a long time.
Yeah,
maybe Burnley away, which I think the whole game had similar vibes to that.
Yeah. It felt like, when we found out he hadn't it, like he was carrying that knock on his ankle, like it was very much that kind of vibe.
He just looked rushed when he never does, and I don't worry about that, because once he's got 4 or 5 games under his belt, I'm pretty confident he'll look like Granit Xhaka again. So it is a big game. I don't think there's any two ways about that, because we said when the fixtures came out, this is a deceptively difficult start, because next month's fixtures are like nasty. Brentford away, Arsenal, and then Man City away. It does feel like, obviously you don't want to panic or overreact, but it's a big game on Sunday, isn't it? Because you don't want to be going into that 3-week break or whatever it is in September. And the Europa League games are starting, and it will feel a bit nervy. It definitely will.
Because confidence is huge, and then like you say, that you don't want the players, even in the back of their mind, to start thinking, oh, maybe everyone's right about us. I mean, I've pulled the fixtures up here because. And I've had this, I think, with Gareth over the years as well, because Gareth is very much a you play every team twice kind of person, right? And I'm always like, no, it matters, because momentum is big in football, and the order of fixtures matter. Now,
this is actually a hill that I will die on, which we might come to another point. You just reminded me of that. It's really important.
Of course it is.
If everyone in football was totally rational and always took the view that, well, you play everyone twice over a season, so I'm not going to overreact to the early fixtures, then it wouldn't matter, but people do react. Yeah. So if you get tough games at the start of the season, it does matter, because people will panic.
So Sunderland's first 6. So obviously, last week we've lost. Now, you've both made the comparison of Burnley away last season. I think that's fair. Yeah. Promoted team, first away game of the season, we lose. Okay, so that's the same. Fulham beat us up here last season. So that's the second game. Then we go to Brentford, where we were comfortably beaten last season. Home to Arsenal. Now, we got a point at home to Arsenal, but let's say that's more unlikely than likely in most cases, because they're going to win the league this year. So there's 1 point from the corresponding 4 fixtures last season. Then your 5th game's away at Man City, which we got nothing from last season. And then we're at home to Brighton, who we also lost to at home last season, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
1-0. It was around the time of the Fulham game, wasn't
So
it?
there's
Yeah.
6 fixtures.
Oh, I'm
where
so
last,
depressed
where
now.
last
Steve.
season Sunderland got 1 point against the best opposition out of those teams. That's when Sunderland finished 7th. So with all of these problems we've got coming in, I'm a bit concerned when I look at that.
The flip side of it is, I think what Sunderland did show last season is that they can get a result against anyone, anytime, any place, and they could also lose to absolutely anybody, anytime, any place, including Port Vale. So I'm not like overreacting to it, but I do just think it always looked to me like a deceptively difficult start to the season, and it does feel like Sunday's a really important game, and that's not, you know, if we lose, coming out and saying, "Oh my God, we're going to get relegated" or anything. But it just will feel nervy. It will. It just will.
If they don't win on Sunday, it just means they're going to have to pull a result out of the bag people weren't expecting, which they can do. Of course they can. This is not what you said there, Phil. I think it's important as well. Like, you know, when we were talking before. I think it was on a different pod we did actually, but you mentioned about Brighton, funnily enough, last season away from home, where AFCON had hit and all of that stuff, and actually we played all right, and you thought, no, we're going to be all right because that's the level we're at, and I do think we're at a different level than what we've seen in previous Premier League campaigns, so I do think there will be results we get this season that on paper people won't be expecting. Yeah. It just means there's more pressure to do that if we then don't get a result on Sunday. But I mean, yeah, that's just I am a bit concerned when I look at it like that. But you know, you should not be fearing Fulham or Brighton at home, really, if you want to be a mid-table Premier League club, is what I would
if
say.
you want to stay up, you've got to win your home game, and that's the big thing as well. Sunderland weren't an amazing away team last year. We had little spells where we got good results, but the season that we had, let's be honest, was because of the Stadium United form. So if it's rocking on Sunday, which I'm sure it will be, I think the players, to their credit last season, it was very, very rare that they had a run of poor performances. Generally speaking,
responded, didn't they? Normally.
Generally speaking, when they didn't turn up, they were sharp the next week. So I'm quite confident that that'll happen again this time.
And I that crossed my mind at the end as well. I thought, Jacques will be on them this week in training, because he come out and he was vocal about that last year, saying I felt like the standards dropped or whatever. Can't remember which game it was. He said it might have been Everton at home, maybe. I can't remember.
But he made comments, didn't he, about
after
how...
the game, the standards had dropped in training a little bit, and we started that game poorly and turned it round. So I've got no doubt they'll be driven to put it right. And again, I'm just going back. I'm not going to pretend to know Fulham inside out and that, but I'm just hoping that they come on the front foot. I think that's what we need.
I think they will, and I think watching them against Chelsea as well, I do think that the way they played will flatter us quite a bit. I think that we can really press them. I think that as long as we are quick and we are back to used to playing with each other, like that, and again, I said it on Monday, but that communication between our players is going to be vital. We cannot be running into each other. We can't, because at one point they literally did. Like against Ipswich, there was Hume and someone else both went for the same ball and ended up running into each other, and it was just lads, all it takes is put your name on it. That's basics. But I do hope that we do start to just click a little bit more, and I think that kind of some of the changes that have been made, and Meunier coming in and things like that, we're not going to see the exact same team we saw last season. However, we know that we do have that strong core, and we have that strong kind of, this is how Sunderland play football, and this is how Regis Labrice plays football, and that's what you're coming into.
I'd be interested to see what he does with the team, Phil. Sunderland fans often have one thing they cling on to, and I always say Denver, and Trey Hume.
He's retired now.
I know. And Trey Hume in that position is the one thing at the minute that people are focusing on, and I guess you can kind of understand. We're being linked with right wingers regularly. I don't think it's a secret that's a position they want to try and improve. But we've brought in all these other wingers, and none of them, it just doesn't seem to be quite working for any of them. And do you think there's going to be any change around that?
I'm not sure. To be honest, it's one where I seem to be massively out of step with the general opinion on this. I thought Hume was quite effective last Saturday. I think most of our best chances came from Hume. I thought he created a lot more than came down the left-hand side. So, is something that got my back up a little bit in the aftermath of the game because I didn't think it was fair. I thought Hume did his job and he did it well. Having said that, I think even though I thought Mooney had a really good debut, it is a little bit one-paced when they play together down that right-hand side, and I think there's a big difference when you've got Mukele sort of crashing around the outside of Hume. It does work a lot better because really Mukele plays like a winger, doesn't he?
Yeah.
When they're set up that way. So I do agree with it in terms of I didn't think the chemistry was quite right last Saturday. I think if I'm being honest, like I thought if I was to list a reason of why we lost that game, in my opinion, Hume being on the right wing would be quite low down.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the big question mark is where's Mukele's fitness at? Because I thought he was.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Well, listen, it's like he's training. He was on the bench last weekend, but he's clearly not 100%. But I just thought he was such a massive miss last Saturday. His intensity, his pace, his athleticism. I came away thinking, if that guy's 70% fit, just get him on the pitch. But that's easy to say. Labrise is looking at going, well, I've got 55 games this year. And if I rush him and he's out for 2 months, so it's a really tricky one. But he was the one player that I came away thinking, can we please get him in the team next Sunday? Because I think that'll make a huge difference.
I also kind of want to see Diarra in the team, you know, a little. I think. So he started last season, didn't he, in the team, Diarra, and we know that Lafayette wasn't, which obviously nobody's calling for that, right? But there were workarounds. You know, when Lafayette first came into the team, it was on the left actually, which allowed Diarra. And I think it was Burnley at home when Diarra had come back after the AFCON and scored 2. And I just think if Fulham are going to come out at us, I kind of like his drive in the middle of the park, and he's effective, and I would like to try and see him make that happen. Don't know whether that would mean Lafayette go out to the left.
Oh, please don't put.
No, I know, but this, you know, or you could find a way for them all to play in there.
Everyone gets to play together.
To be honest, I can't remember against Burnley. I can't remember how he set up because
Enzo was probably on the left. I would have thought
against Burnley.
I think he was.
Yeah.
I just think I get what you mean. I do think Diarra is exciting there, but I think you lose a lot when Enzo isn't playing through the middle. Like he's so vital. Putting him out on when you put him out on the left.
So you know, Matali is it pronounced the new signing. He's really attacking by all accounts. So it'll be interesting to know if that becomes an option then. So you've mentioned the relationship Hume has with Mukele when he plays, and you do wonder if actually they think the width on the left side is going to come from the full back, and then Lafayette kind of tucking in there would make a little bit more sense.
There is an interesting thing though in terms of if you change it after one game, having played Enzo in 10 all pre-season, what kind of does that send a bit of a message of panic a little bit as well? Possibly if you after one game you change it. Don't know, it's tricky.
So do you foresee many changes at all?
I think if he's fit, Mukele's got. I think Alderete has to play as well.
Yeah, I think 09 has to come out.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, and this isn't me digging him out, and I don't want to have a go at him, but I think he's good in the dressing room. I think he's fine for cover. I don't think he is in our starting 11. Like I just don't see that. And yes, if we've still got players getting back to fitness and he's needed there, but if there is another option like Alderete,
at some point in the season, 09's going to come back into the team and he's going to play it brilliantly well, and we're going to say fair play, Luke 09, and because that's what he's done, and he's incredible at it. But I just think Alderete was the starting centre back for much of last season for a reason. I think.
Has Labrise spoken to you at all about Matali playing left centre half? Because we shared some analysis and we retweeted and shared on our social media accounts by some analysis who said like we've got the full works on this guy, and we were just talking through DMs and he was saying don't be surprised to see him play.
I'll ask him on Friday. I haven't because we couldn't ask him until Saturday because obviously the deal was happening, not happening. And then I did ask him a bit about Matali after the game.
There you go. There's your question. Is he an option for you?
Yeah, after the game on Saturday, it's not really the time to be talking about a new sign, and after they've lost the game, it's not great. So I'll ask on Friday. I'll let you know.
Okay. Oh well. Keep your ears peeled for that one then. Any main changes, Eleanor?
09.
That would be it.
Yeah, I mean, Angulo. I don't know.
I mean, it does feel, doesn't it?
I
Feel like I just
can't-
mentioned the wingers then.
I can't decide in terms of Angulo, but I think he's potentially one. He just doesn't have the strength yet for me.
Yeah.
And it's something you can change, and it's something you can sort. But yeah,
Okay.
he doesn't have the strength for me.
Yeah, and the wingers one's an interesting one I mentioned there. It's just something needs to stick, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, is there I would have started Talby last weekend. I was surprised that he didn't. But is there an argument that he's just cracked a free kick in off the underside of the bar? Maybe that'll give him a confidence boost. Do you give him another start? I think there's got to be an argument for that as well. So I'd be tempted to leave it for this one personally.
Yeah.
We'll see. Mukele and Alderete, the 2 ones for me. If they're fit, let's get them in the team. However you do it.
Okay, give me some predictions then, Eleanor.
I mean, I think I said 2-1, didn't I, last week, and ended up being correct, just the wrong way. I do think we'll win, but I think it'll be like 1-0.
Okay.
1-0. Yeah. Back to basics.
And 1-0 Isidore.
Bit nervy at times, but grind it out. Old school Sunderland. Yeah.
I think
Actually, that's another change I'd make. I'd start with Isidore instead of Brobby.
Oh.
I'd bring Brobby on.
Big shout, drop late in the pod. Love
I'd,
it.
I'd bring Brobby on eventually. I wouldn't have Isidore play the whole game, but I'd start with Isidore.
Oh, interesting. For me, I would still be bringing him on when the game's stretched a little bit later on. I think we'll win. I might be nervy in parts, but I'm thinking 2-0 maybe. Similar to Wolves last year, we get 1 and then we get another 1 late if they're trying to push. But yeah, that was a good one to drop in later on, wasn't it? The Brobby Isidore thing. We do have to wrap things up though, so
yes,
we'll do that. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're doing that as well.